Hey everybody, it's Ricardo, and I am here at Microsoft's X10 event with Peter Molyneux, who has just spent some time showing off Fable 3. So before we hit you with questions about what you showed, do you want to just fill the folks at home in on what Fable 3 is all about this time?
Yeah, I mean, Fable 3, it's all about power, man. I mean, you know, that is the thing that I think we realised, is that when you come to something like Fable, we want to surprise people, absolutely. And that's the one word. We want you to feel powerful. So you can break those, thing I'm demoing at the moment, it breaks down to 3 areas. One is the story. How can I write a story that makes you feel powerful? Well, most stories are the same, whether they're books or films or TV or computer games, and certainly that was true of Fable. They're about the hero's journey. You know, it's that you start off as a weak character, and then there's some big baddie, and then you power yourself up for the ultimate final fight, you defeat the big baddie, credits roll. Well, why is it like that? Why do you take my moment of victory away and roll the credits? Surely there's something we can do there. So the story in Fable 2 is the same at the start. You start as a weak character. There's this big baddie called Logan. He's the king of Albion. He's this terrible tyrant. Your job in the first part of the game is to get people to follow you so you can lead a rebellion to overthrow him off the crown. There's a big battle. You defeat him and you become king. That's the halfway point of the game. Then we let you feel the power of rule. What it feels like to rule a kingdom. And there's a huge amount of unique drama which I don't think you would have seen in any game before. So that's the first thing. The second thing, if it's all about power, what game mechanics can we give you that make you feel powerful? And bizarrely, we were really inspired by some things that we've seen in other games. One of those games was called Ico. Now, Ico was one of the most charming games I've ever seen, and they had this really lovely mechanic where you could reach out to the girl and lead her by the hand. I loved that. Bizarrely, that is about power. So we've got this ability to touch things, touch objects and touch people. The way you touch them is context sensitive. So if you're just meeting someone, you pull the trigger, you reach out your hand, you shake their hand. If you gain their trust, you can keep a hold of their hand and you can lead them. If you have a romantic connection with them, you walk along holding hands together. If that person you're leading suddenly gets fearful, you'll find that you're not leading them anymore, that you're dragging them. It's all about holding and hugging and caressing and chastising and beating and dragging. And that's what touch gives you. And I think when you see it for the first time, which I've been showing, you kind of get it. Oh my God, I can see. There was one bit in the demo that we've got here where there's a beggar comes up to you and asks you for some money. You just give them gold. Or you can use the touch expression. You take him by the hand and he'll say, "Oh, you're going to take me home for dinner. That's lovely. I haven't had a full meal." But if you drag him towards the workhouse, he suddenly gets the idea that you're going to sell him. And he starts pulling back on you. And the fact that you're pulling him along, the fact is, if your dog was hurt and you use touch on them, you pick up your dog and you caress his head in your hands. That is touch. That's what's so important. And in today, you know, in the real world, it's actually all about that power mechanic. And the last bit of that I'm demoing is about combat. You know, again, combat has to be fresh and new and different, and it is about making you feel powerful. How can I make you feel powerful in combat? Well, we can do like dual wielding, so you can use your sword and your gun at the same time. We can redevelop the magic system. We can give you more spells, but that's not really what I want, is the power. And the real powerful combat comes in this amazing ability for you to craft weapons. How do you craft weapons? You craft weapons by using weapons. The more you use a weapon, the more it changes and becomes unique, and weapons go up levels and unlock new abilities. So, for example, if you're using a sword, you'll notice over time its sword starts getting sharper. If you use it a certain way, the blade will curve. If you have your gamer score is built into the uniqueness of your sword, the higher your gamer score is, you'll see these little horns that appear on the side of the blade. If you kill innocent people with a sword, it'll start dripping with blood. If you use special moves and you're very successful with it, it'll get even more sharp. The texture of the blade, the shape of the blade is defined by the creatures you kill. That means everybody's weapons can be unique. What's so cool about that is you are then free to trade your weapon online. And your weapon will be known as Ricardo's axe of hob killing. You can trade that online, it can go around online, and then you can buy it back later and see how it's changed. That makes you feel powerful. That's more about morphing and more about your uniqueness, but rather than just being in your body, it's in the combat system alone.
All right, next question. You mentioned combat. Now, fundamentally, it looks right now to be very similar to the combat in Fable 2, but there have been some changes that you mentioned.
Yeah, so the combat system is actually turns out to be really, really different. We still got the 3 buttons, so 1 button for swords, 1 button for guns, 1 button for magic. But now we've really honed this fast presses as quick attacks, sustained presses a build up, and what we call flourish attacks. The cool thing about those build up flourish attacks, we do not cap their power. So the longer you hold down the button, the more you charge up and build up your sword swing, your gunshot, or your magic spell. If you were to hold down the button for 10 hours, you would get a thermonuclear-like attack. That's fine, I love that, it's all about the power. So that's the first thing. The second thing, there's a few mechanical changes. You're absolutely able to press the sword button to defend with your sword, and then quickly switch to the gun button and shoot as well. So you can be using your sword and shooting, and it's exactly the same applies to magic, so those are mechanical things. Plus the fact we've taken away this very clumsy magic system where it had 5 levels and replaced the magic system with these objects which you have but allow weaving to be in there. And the whole of combat is modified by the weapon that you're wielding, which is unique to yourself.
All right, so our next to last question is about Natal support, because Fable 3 was obviously one of the titles that was, listed as having some kind of Natal functionality. You talking about that yet?
I mean, if it's up to me, I would talk about every single feature in the game. I love Natal. I love the uniqueness of it. I love that it pushes me as a designer. It makes me think of, smart ways of interacting with experiences. I completely adore it. I think the Fable universe is perfect for that sort of freshness that's there. But, I'm just not allowed to talk about it. What I can say categorically is you play Fable with a controller. It's not a Natal-based game in any way. But I'm not saying that Natal doesn't feature in Fable.
And obviously our last question is, when is the game coming out?
It's definitely going to be this year. I've learnt that you shouldn't be specific about dates, because you'll probably be wrong, but definitely this year.
All right, there you go. That is the first word on Fable 3 from Peter Molyneux, coming out this year with some kind of Natal support. For more on the game, be sure and check back on the site very soon.